So in order to prepare a virtual machine for use with Xpenology within Proxmox, you go to create virtual machine. You can adjust the virtual machine ID to whatever you prefer, and in my previous video I wanted to create a synoboot image for VMID 205, so I'm using VMID 205. I'm going to call it Xpenology. I'm obviously trying to save on typing. I click on next. It's at the bottom of the screen and not recorded here, but never mind. So you don't use any DVD. You can leave the remaining settings as default. For SCSI controller, I read that you should be using default, and I also read that you should be using Q35 as BIOS, but I'm not doing that here. The hard disk should be a SATA disk. This SATA disk is for the synoboot image only, so it actually can be tiny. Literally, I think it's 50 megabytes in length, so you are wasting some if you are saving that 1 gigabyte. So you're wasting some space if you are writing that 1 gigabyte file, especially if it is not thin storage. But so be it. We can leave the other settings, for instance cache to no cache, because it's only be read once and not multiple times. Give it as many sockets as you deem necessary. I don't think it's going to make much difference again. The settings are fairly straightforward. Give it 1 gigabyte of memory. Disable ballooning because it doesn't know how to deal with that anyway, I believe. You choose a network card E1000. I understand that's best for compatibility, so these settings should all be fine. And it sorts itself out creating a virtual machine, and once that's done, go back into hardware and add another hard disk, which is going to be the one that takes the OS, if you like. I understand that should be 16 gigs in size. I've got two pools here, both are not very large. This one is the one that comes with Proxmox. The local thin I've created on a second hard drive that is in my computer, and I am basically writing this 16 gig file as well in order to prepare that for taking that Proxmox OS. So with these two, this is basically the main thing to watch out for. You want to have one partition that takes the synoboot image, which is the SATA 0. SATA 1 is going to take the OS, and then later on you would add more hard drives in order to allow you to store your actual data, but these don't necessarily need to be virtualized. These could be pass-through hard drives in order to make use of the power saving capabilities of your Synology subsystem, because Proxmox, I think, will never spin down any drives, even if they are not in use for quite some time. And I'm a power saving geek, unfortunately, which is making life harder for me sometimes, but it's that's just the way it is. So in part one, we've created this synoboot image that we've customized after mounting it as a local loop file system. We have edited the grub config to accommodate for other MAC addresses and serial numbers. We've unmounted it, and what's now going to happen is I am going to write this to the disk 0 of VM205. You can see that there are multiple drives underneath the /dev/pve subfolder. and the latest one that I've used was disk 0. I've created disk 0 and 1 just a minute ago. So I'm just going to override the contents of this with the lovely dd command. It's as easy as that. Now we're going to go back to Proxmox, start the virtual machine, drop into console. These are the expected screens. And if I now search for more disk stations, we should see the one with the 205 appear. So here we've got 205. This is the new disk station that we've successfully created. As you could see, it was a fairly straightforward process. Per disk station that you generate, the process takes maybe at most 3 minutes. It involves 5 commands at most to run, like copy the synoboot image to a new file, mount it. The first block is always the same. It's 1,024,240,000 or something like that. It's 24,000. It's really straightforward. The value is always the same. You just use the same mount command to get it mounted, to make it accessible, to edit and the grub.config file, unmount, dd the file across into your newly created Xpenology virtual machine. You can even use these are templates. These are obviously virtual machines. If you've not made use of templates yet, you can basically make use of these in order to, you can only clone or migrate these templates. I've created myself some templates in order to not have to go through the whole process of clicking the various values and then adding another disk. So that's why I've basically created myself templates that have got 2 drives within them. So that I can, even if they literally don't contain any data in those virtual hard drives, but this allows me to just clone this virtual drive, this virtual container template to a new virtual container, and start from there, skipping all that. Select how many CPUs, select how many cores, select the operating system, select hard drives, blah, blah, blah. It's just way too involved to end up with always the same kind of template. And that, as said, allows you to create lots of Synology devices that you can then use for testing your upgrade path, testing installation of various plugins and what have you.